Interestingly enough, there's a whole slew of articles out recently that say that China's favorability in the world, including in the US itself, is rising while the latter is falling. Why do you think that is?
We're in the midst of, I think, a very clear narrative shift on China. Again, it's not just in the United States. I think it's broadly, in the West, right? I mean, so I think it's a combination of push and pull factors. I mean, obviously Trump factors in here, right? Probably not just in the way that we immediately think. I mean, sure, there are a lot of people in the States right now who think he is taking the country in a truly awful direction, that we are, like I said, in the midst of a constitutional crisis. That, if the U.S. is going to turn into an authoritarian state, let's at least, I mean, I would rather go live in the technocratic, competent authoritarian state rather than in this, like, crazy kind of stochastic, um, kakistocracy, right? It's just dumb authoritarianism in America, the way that Trump is taking it. But I think there's also a lot of people who are maybe pro-Trump, whose minds are also changing on China because, in part, they see how their leader is behaving, right? They think that, Trump didn't just taco on this. It's Trump always chickens out. But they think when it comes to China, he actually sees something, that he admires in Xi Jinping, just as he sees it in Putin. And they kind of go along with it. I see this changing, like on Taiwan, the way that after the failed recall vote, and then, not allowing Lai to visit, to transit through the United States, and not allowing this, planned security summit that was going to take place in DC with Taiwanese officials to go forward. That, he's basically sees Taiwan as a loser. He's ready to cut a deal with China, and so we're starting to see this. I mean, there's a lot that the right, for better or for worse, kind of admires about China. They see it as like this law and order society that's, broadly speaking, ethnically, homogeneous, right? That it's not, obviously, but but I think that I kind of I get that. I mean, I'll take it. It's better than preparing for war. Uh, I think, though, any fair-minded assessment of the country's attainments right now, an alien civilization comes to Earth and looks at the United States and looks at China right now and is going to say probably it's going to give the prize to China, just in terms of, its inertia in improving measures of human flourishing. But I think, Zaza, the important thing is that this shift is happening. If you look at the Pew data, right, the shift is happening. It's weirdly, except for in Poland or Hungary, I can't remember what country. There's like one outlier, but in every other country they look at, and especially in the United States, it's the young people, like the 18 to 25s, where you see this gigantic shift in a positive direction. So I think that's significant because that's a leading indicator. These are people who are going to have their views being formed now and are going to hold on to them for a while. So this suggests to me that as we move forward, the narrative shift is going to stick. Now, I think that's happening for a couple of reasons. Now, again, some of it is push, but the pull parts of it, I mean, and I guess this is may still more push, but they feel like they've been gaslit by the mainstream media on China, the China that they now see coming at them in their socials, right? In their IG feed or whatever. I mean, they see these, beautiful urban landscapes. They see these nice apartments. This is not a Potemkin village. It's not fake. It's the very nice parts of a real village. There's lots of really shitty parts of that same village. They don't show those, obviously, because it's social media. But they're not being lied to there. And these are people in the United States. They don't live in societies with really high social mobility. with really, fast changing urban landscapes. They don't have like, gazillions of kilometers of high speed rail. So they're naturally very impressed when they see what these influencers are pushing on the socials. And they also don't have trauma from 36 years ago, right? They weren't born. They weren't born in 1989. They don't have that image burned into their minds the way everyone, millennials or Gen X or boomers do. It's very different. And so I think the combination of these things means that this vibe shift is probably going to stick around for a while. I think on balance, that's a good thing. There's a lot of naivete. I think that there's a lot of Pollyannish misconceptions about it. There's overcorrection. China is not some techno utopian paradise, right? Obviously it's not, right? They're going to downplay the repression. They're going to romanticize its governance model, which is not perfect. So I don't know. I think that both cynicism and the naive kind of optimism, they distort reality. I'm, surprise, surprise. I'm about like, let's be clear eyed. Let's look at it, what it really is, but let's not smoke the copium either. Let's not, ask, but at what cost at every turn, and try to find some reason to self-soothe and make Americans feel better.
Yeah, maybe there's a correction or overcorrection going on in the opposite direction as well. I've never been to the States, but I have a good friend. She's American that I met in Berlin when I was still living there, and then she moved back to the States, and we had a video call once. She was in New Orleans. She was living in a house in some suburb, and she showed me around her neighborhood, and it was quite shocking is the word that I was looking for. A decaying infrastructure, shacks everywhere, homeless people. And I'm coming from Eastern Europe. I wasn't born in Beverly Hills or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Right,
it's not,
right.
my expectation wasn't over the roof, but it certainly wasn't what we usually see in the movies, in Hollywood movies, where everything's polished. Then she came back after a couple of years for a visit, and she said she was robbed at gunpoint 2 times in 3 years.
Lord.
So,
Yeah.
it works in the other direction as well, I suppose.
Yeah. That's a data point. I mean, one thing you can say is China is very, very safe. No question about that. I mean, it's something I've been thinking about an awful lot. When I left China in 2016, I had no doubt in my mind that it was a low trust society. It was absolutely a low trust society. Everyone really believed in their heart of hearts that most other people were running a game. They had some ulterior motive, that everyone wanted something. People were deeply untrusting and very cynical. That seems to have changed, and I don't know why. I'm part of it is just the panopticon of ever-present surveillance, but it does seem like this is something I really want to explore. Yeah, there's a shift. There's a shift. I'm not ready to pronounce on it yet, but
why was it a low trust society? Where was that coming from?
Neoliberalism, buddy. I mean, I know it's because it was just so dog eat dog. Because it was, I think that, it was a scarcity mindset that everyone had to get theirs. And, you found a way to get in line ahead of the other guy, and you put your morals aside. I mean, when I moved to the States, one of the things that I realized, as the election approached, was how many Chinese in the United States, immigrants from China, were supporters of Donald Trump. I was horrified. It was just so, I couldn't get my head around it initially. And I thought, well, I mean, it's about affirmative action. It was, affirmative action was a big piece of it, this sort of casual racism. But in my final analysis, I think it has to do with just, they came from a really low trust environment. They were ready to say, I am going to screw you and yours and anyone else who gets in my way before you can screw me and mine. Yeah. I'm going to climb over your body to get over that wall. But yeah, I think that's it. It's significantly changing right now.
Thank you so much for listening. Please subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, follow and rate on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. every marketing tutorial out there insists it's really important that I hassle you about this, so I'm doing it right now. Also, if you'd like to, please support me on Patreon. This is a one-person podcast, as I always say. I do everything by my little old self. There's no team behind me. It's very sad, I know, but you can help by hopping on Patreon and finding the Smart Cookies podcast on there. And then last but certainly not least, as always, I have to thank my existing patrons, Tovarishin and Tovarishice, absolute legends. Without you, there would be no Smart Cookies, which makes you actual producers of this show. So eternal thanks goes to Amy Jontz, Matija Renčel, Florian Hauer, Petar Karba, Matija Zupančič, Dejan Žolnir, Darej Rok, Tržan, Saša Vipatnik, Neven Cvijanović, Juš Premrov, Sirkezi, Goran Ivašić, Anže Sever, Ole, Marin Ferrara, Aljaš Mahar, Štrole, Ajda Mancian, Miha Medved, Medinjo, Goran, Gordon, Lorenzo, Jurečuk, Mila, Carmen Veronica, and Tai Chi. I am deeply touched, so thank you very much.